What if I told you that everything you've come to believe from reading standard history textbooks is a profound misconception? Hello to all lovers of the mysteries of the past. Welcome to the channel. Today we'll talk about events so incredible that even Hollywood directors would envy such a plot. Official history usually portrays the indigenous peoples of North America as fragmented groups of people, perpetually at odds with one another and unable to reach an agreement. But there was one outstanding leader who, single-handedly, managed to break the system and forever change the established order on the vast Great Plains. His name still inspires awe. The brilliant leadership and political acumen of the legendary Chief Quana served as the most powerful catalyst for an unprecedented, truly extraordinary tactical alliance. Just think about it. Sworn enemies who had been at war with each other for decades suddenly set aside all their grievances and became trusted brothers in arms, and all for a single overarching goal: a brutal and uncompromising confrontation with a ruthless, heavily armed regular army. Are you ready to learn the truth about how the great alliances of the past were formed? For a long time, Native American tribes acted solely in their own narrow, local interests. The Comanche, Kiowa, and Cheyenne had been disputing vast expanses of the plains for decades. Chief Quana realized the critical need to change this outdated strategy of constant fragmentation. He began a long series of extremely complex negotiations with his former historical rivals. The process of large-scale unification required incredible patience and immense diplomatic tact. Quana personally visited distant settlements to establish a foundation of mutually beneficial trust. He proposed putting old grievances completely behind them for the sake of preserving all the cultures of the region. The chief used his unquestioned authority to create an entirely new system of relations. Instead of constant conflict, he introduced a progressive model of mutual support. Traditional councils of elders initially categorically rejected the idea of such a broad alliance. Many influential leaders flatly refused to sit around the same campfire with their long-standing rivals. Quana presented rigorous, logical arguments about the overwhelming numerical superiority of the advancing regular army. He demonstrated the utter futility of any internal disputes in the face of a large-scale external threat. Gradually, the chieftain's well-reasoned arguments began to resonate widely among the nomadic population. To finally solidify the alliance, much more was needed than just the right words. Quana initiated a massive and regular exchange of resources among the various ethnic groups. This was an ancient method of demonstrating deep mutual respect in practice. This specific step made it possible to completely break down the accumulated barriers of mistrust between the groups. The leaders' diplomatic initiatives quickly began to yield their first tangible results. The combined forces promptly began developing uniform, strict standards for signaling and communication. Previously, each individual tribe had used its own unique methods for transmitting important signals. Now, it was urgent to create a universal system of identifying signals that all participants could understand. Quana tasked the best local trackers with developing this new language of tactical communication. Soon, mobile units were able to instantly exchange critical operational data over long distances. Deep integration also addressed pressing issues regarding the distribution of food and basic supplies. The wealthier tribes voluntarily shared their supplies with those facing acute shortages. This vividly demonstrated the true essence of the new confederation in real, everyday practice. Mutual aid became the primary, unshakable rule of life. In the vast, united nomadic camp, solidarity completely replaced the former fierce competition for living space. For the first time in the history of this vast region, a unified chain of command was established. Quana never attempted to become the sole authoritarian ruler of all the assembled peoples. He formed a supreme council consisting of the 10 most experienced and wise strategists. This council skillfully coordinated the movements of thousands of people across the vast steppe territory. A clear structure of flexible command made it possible to avoid chaos when planning maneuvers. The unification of yesterday's irreconcilable enemies became a true phenomenon in world military history. This alliance enabled the peoples of the plains to organize an incredibly coordinated and powerful tactical resistance. Their unity became their primary, inexhaustible resource in the upcoming large-scale historical confrontation. We'd be very interested to hear your personal perspective on Quana's brilliant diplomacy. Share your thoughts in the comments and be sure to subscribe to our channel. The hidden truth that everyone keeps quiet about is the incredible initial complexity of this alliance. The process of strategic rapprochement between the Kiowa and the Comanche required overcoming 5 decades of mutual distrust. These peoples had traditionally competed fiercely for the best plains locations to set up camp. Quanah Parker served as the chief impartial mediator in resolving these long-standing territorial disputes. He proposed dividing areas of operational responsibility to ensure absolute common order. Many Cheyenne also remained on the sidelines of this broader alliance for a long time. Their leaders considered the Comanche's tactics too different from their own established traditions. Quana spent 10 long days at the Cheyenne camp, discussing the plans in detail. He convinced them that the difference in their combat approaches would become their greatest advantage. The combination of different tactical schools gave the entire combined force a unique flexibility in maneuvering. A key factor was the unconditional recognition of the equal status of every tribe participating in the alliance. No single group was to feel disadvantaged in terms of rights or resources. Quana carefully monitored compliance with this crucial and delicate diplomatic balance on a daily basis. All gathered resources were distributed strictly in proportion to the quantitative contributions of the alliance members. Fairness became the unshakable foundation of the strength of their incredible and effective military alliance. A special, independent intertribal court was established to resolve emerging disputes quickly. Wise elders from different groups jointly and openly adjudicated conflicts between warriors. This completely ruled out the possibility of blood feuds or the dangerous escalation of minor domestic quarrels. Such a legal mechanism was an absolute innovation for the free nomadic peoples of the plains. It ensured the long-term internal stability of the vast multinational, mobile encampment. Security arrangements for large camps also reached an entirely new level of effectiveness. Patrols now consisted of trusted representatives from 3 or 4 different tribes at once. This ensured maximum round-the-clock vigilance and ruled out the possibility of a surprise attack by a regular army. Every sentry knew full well that he was protecting not only his own tribesmen, but also his new allies. This mutual responsibility made the early warning system incredibly effective and reliable. Military training underwent significant changes thanks to the constant exchange of unique combat experience. The Kiowa warriors actively taught their allies their special cunning techniques for stealthy movement. The Comanche willingly shared the secrets of quickly coordinating large groups in open, exposed terrain. This exchange of skills significantly and rapidly enhanced the overall combat effectiveness of absolutely all members of the alliance. The army soon unexpectedly faced an enemy of a completely new and dangerous caliber. For the first time, the indigenous nomadic peoples began to think in terms of large-scale unified strategic defense. Previously, each chieftain had been concerned solely with defending his own specific local settlement. Quanah Parker taught them to view the entire expanse of the Great Plains as a single defensive line. The loss of any part of the territory was considered a painful blow to the entire vast tribal alliance. This philosophy completely and permanently changed the approach to planning any large-scale maneuvers. The unification gradually reached a point where former enemies became one big family. They learned to entrust their lives completely to those with whom they had previously been locked in irreconcilable and brutal conflict. Do you think such a rapid unification of former rivals for a common cause is possible in the modern world? Keep reading until the next chapter to find out exactly how they coordinated their actions across vast distances. The secret, for which people pay thousands, lies in a unique system of natural synchronization. Quanah Parker developed an incredible coordination method based on observing the shadows cast by the rocks. Units located 50 kilometers apart set out on the march at exactly the same time. They navigated by the precise angle at which the sun's rays fell on predetermined geographical landmarks. This served as their substitute for mechanical clocks and allowed them to launch perfectly coordinated flanking attacks. This highly unconventional system required a perfect and in-depth knowledge of the terrain across the entire vast territory. Each commander of a mobile unit memorized all the reference points along his route in advance. At the appointed time, the rays of the bright sun would strike a specific ledge or the edge of a canyon. It was precisely this specific moment that served as a clear signal to begin a stealthy advance. Army generals could not fathom how the Native Americans achieved such incredible simultaneous coordination. In addition to these natural sundials, the Allies used a system of directed light signals. Polished, smooth stones and flat pieces of metal served as excellent signaling mirrors for communication. A signal was transmitted from the summit of one mountain to another in just 3 seconds. This allowed them to instantly and accurately adjust their plans in the event of a change in the enemy column's route. This type of optical step telegraphy was far ahead of many of the Army's communication methods of the time. A unique method of using the starry night sky as a reference was employed for covert nighttime coordination. Lookouts were stationed in narrow gorges and closely observed specific bright constellations. The passage of a large enemy column against the horizon temporarily blocked the light of specific stars. This made it possible to accurately calculate the actual speed and size of the moving column in complete darkness. The information was immediately and secretly relayed to Quanah's headquarters for tactical decision-making. Quanah also successfully implemented the concept of decoy camps to disorient the regular U.S. Army. The Native Americans built large, fully equipped camps, which they then deliberately left completely and utterly empty. The Army wasted enormous resources and spent many days encircling these deserted encampments. Meanwhile, the actual forces of the Confederacy were moving safely in a completely different strategic direction. This tactic of constant attrition wore down the soldiers far more than any open combat. The Alliance's intelligence also employed sophisticated methods of analyzing dust clouds on the prairie horizon. Experienced observers could determine the type of moving column based on the color and density of the dust. They could easily distinguish an infantry march from the movement of heavily laden, unwieldy army wagons. This allowed them to assess the level of the impending threat in advance and choose the correct counter-tactics. Knowledge of nature became a powerful tool for military and in-depth tactical analysis. Quanah's unique methods transformed scattered tribes into an elusive and incredibly effective force. Their actions became an unparalleled model of ideal adaptation to the harsh conditions of their homeland. Not a single military doctrine of that time could withstand such natural Native American ingenuity. Like this video if you were also impressed by the strategic genius of this Native American chief. Your support helps us create even more unique and informative historical content. What if everything you were taught is outdated? Classical European military science proved utterly useless in the vast expanses of the wild North American plains. Quanah Parker convincingly demonstrated this by organizing a mobile defense system of unprecedented scale. He categorically rejected the idea of holding specific territories or defending stationary, vulnerable settlements. Instead, he wisely relied on constant maneuvering and delivering precise flanking strikes. The boundless plains provided vast base for absolutely any tactical maneuvers and movements. The chief divided the entire accessible territory into 4 large operational zones with clearly defined responsibilities. Each zone was operated by its own mobile group drawn from the United Allied Tribes. These groups were constantly on the move, denying the enemy even the slightest opportunity to deliver a decisive blow. Command was exercised through an incredibly complex system of relay couriers between these operational zones. The couriers were carefully selected from among the most resilient and fastest young warriors. They transmitted secret oral messages, memorized with incredible precision and detail. The use of exclusively oral orders ruled out the possibility of the enemy's military command intercepting secret plans. Each such messenger knew only his own short segment of the route to the next relay point. This guaranteed the complete and absolute security of the entire network, even if a single person were captured. Quanah's strategy involved creating so-called zones of absolute emptiness ahead of the advancing army. The Indians completely and methodically cleared the territory along the route of the regular military columns. The soldiers advanced without encountering any resistance or sources of basic supplies. This artificial vacuum depleted the army's reserves much faster than any open combat. The enemy troops retreated deep into the prairie, irretrievably losing contact with their supply bases. To heighten the general chaos, Quanah employed the exhausting tactic of feigned nighttime attacks on the camps. Small groups of warriors would stealthily approach the army's positions and make a tremendous racket. Soldiers would wake up in a panic, waste ammunition, and wait for hours for a large-scale, decisive morning assault. But at dawn, not a single Native American warrior could be found around the fortified camp. Such exhausting maneuvers were repeated night after night, completely depriving the enemy of restorative sleep. All these actions, which at first glance seemed disjointed, were part of a single strict plan devised by the High Command. Each detachment clearly knew its own place in the overall complex strategic mosaic. The coordination of thousands of people across a vast territory spanning hundreds of miles, worked flawlessly. Time and again, the Native Americans demonstrated a level of organization comparable to the best armies of the time. Quanah Parker convincingly proved his genius as an outstanding military leader and an unrivaled strategist. Constant, skillful maneuvering and stealth were the keys to a long and incredibly successful campaign. The Allied tribes transformed their vast homelands into an impregnable and deadly mobile fortress. Do you think modern, advanced armies would be able to cope with such maneuverable tactics? In the next chapter, you'll learn how this vast alliance solved the complex problems of its own logistics. Supplying a vast confederation of tribes required flawless internal organization and precise mathematical calculations. Traditional, familiar methods of foraging could no longer feed a nomadic, mobile camp numbering in the thousands. Quanah Parker quickly implemented a system of centralized collection and distribution of all incoming essential resources. Specialized professional teams were created, responsible exclusively for procuring provisions for the entire alliance. They worked far from the combat zones, ensuring an uninterrupted, stable flow of vital supplies. Food distribution always took place under the strict and vigilant supervision of the Council of Respected Elders of the Alliance. All supplies were carefully stored in communal warehouses, access to which was strictly and rigorously regulated. Food was distributed strictly in proportion to the size of each individual group or large family with many children. No one was permitted to secretly hoard personal reserves at the expense of other members. Such strict financial discipline helped prevent internal inequality and potential destructive conflicts. Supplies were regularly transported by small, specialized caravans under the heavy guard of experienced warriors. Their secret routes were constantly changed to ensure maximum secrecy and absolute safety. The caravans traveled mainly in the dead of night, navigating by the stars and the familiar contours of the high mountains. During the day, they took refuge in deep, dark canyons, blending in with the surrounding desert landscape. The logistical network functioned seamlessly, much like a circulatory system, nourishing the entire vast organism of the powerful alliance. Complex repairs and the manufacture of ammunition were also fully centralized across the entire alliance. The finest craftsmen from various tribes worked together, mass-producing arrows, sturdy bows and spears. They actively exchanged secrets on the proper processing of wood and stone to improve the quality of their weapons. A well-organized division of labor made it possible to significantly increase both the volume and overall speed of production of necessary items. High-quality and reliable equipment was delivered in a timely manner to all combat units of the united, uncompromising front. Special attention was always paid to the acquisition and fair distribution of scarce captured firearms. Captured rifles were given exclusively to the most accurate and experienced marksmen from all allied tribes. Ammunition was highly prized and distributed literally piece by piece before every major tactical maneuver. The Native Americans even learned to cast their own bullets from lead salvaged from wrecked army wagons. This labor-intensive process required incredible precision and strict adherence to all fire safety regulations. Water remained the most valuable and important logistical resource during the dry, hot summer months. The Allies created an incredibly detailed map of all hidden springs, water sources, and seasonal streams. A system of strict and fair priority for access to water was developed for the various units. Special airtight, durable water bags, made of specially treated leather, were widely used to carry water. This allowed the units to safely make long treks across completely waterless stretches of the scorching desert. Medical care at the camps drew on the deep knowledge of all the experienced folk healers present. Healers from different tribes worked together in harmony to care for the sick and wounded. They created a shared, abundant supply of medicinal herbs, healing roots, and special restorative ointments. The exchange of expertise in the field of traditional folk medicine saved countless lives during the campaign. Constant care for every member of the alliance further strengthened the internal unity of this vast, diverse group. Thanks to this ingeniously designed logistics system, the alliance was able to function successfully for many months in a row. Economic independence became the most reliable foundation for all of Chief Quana's military successes. Competent macroeconomic management of resources demonstrated the highest level of social organization among Native American peoples. The Army was never able to completely destroy this hidden and incredibly effective supply network. Logistics became just as important and formidable a weapon as the warriors' own combat skills. What the government does not want you to know concerns the moral superiority of the Native Americans. Quanah Parker understood perfectly and deeply that a war is won first and foremost in the minds of the people. He developed an entire sophisticated system of psychological pressure on the soldiers of the regular U.S. Army. The goal was to instill in the enemy a constant nagging fear of an invisible and absolutely omnipresent threat. This invisible terror reliably paralyzed the soldiers' will far more effectively than direct firefights. One of the most effective tools of intimidation was the absolute eerie silence that preceded the attack. Army commanders always expected loud battle cries and the chaotic clamor of a large attacking crowd. Instead, Quana's combined forces attacked in complete and incredibly oppressive silence. The sound of flying arrows and the whistle of the prairie wind were the only harbingers of the impending deadly threat. Time and again, this supernatural silence struck a genuine primal terror into the hearts of the young recruits from the cities. The Indians made masterful use of the natural echoes in the deep mountain canyons and gorges. A small, agile group of 10 warriors could easily mimic the presence of a massive army numbering in the thousands. The sounds shifted unpredictably from side to side, completely disorienting the officers and terrifying the soldiers. The army would often form a tight circular defense, preparing to repel a massive assault that did not actually exist. These auditory illusions quickly wore down the enemy's nervous system to the limits of human endurance. Visual illusions were also a very important part of this sophisticated and brutal psychological warfare. Warriors placed lifelike dummies made of grass and old clothing on the tops of distant hills. At dawn, these motionless silhouettes appeared to the exhausted soldiers as a massive army ready to attack at any moment. Commanders wasted valuable time and precious ammunition firing at these stationary grass targets for extended periods. Such rushes caused the army to constantly doubt the reality of what they saw before them. The enemy's demoralization was also reliably achieved through the sudden disappearances of large, mobile Native American detachments. The army might doggedly pursue a visible group of warriors for an entire long, hot day. Suddenly, those being pursued would literally vanish into the folds of the terrain, leaving no clear traces behind. This gave rise to wild, mystical rumors among the soldiers about the supernatural abilities of the United Tribes of the Plains. Fear of the terrifying unknown became Chief Quana's chief and most reliable ally. The allies never gave their exhausted enemy a chance to feel completely safe. Even during extended stops, the regular army's camps were subjected to constant minor acts of sabotage. Someone might secretly cut the tent ropes in the dark or knock over pots of prepared food. These actions did not cause significant physical damage, but they dealt a massive blow to the fragile morale of the troops. The soldiers were constantly in a state of extreme nervous tension, expecting the worst. Quana's psychological warfare was skillfully aimed at completely depleting the enemy's internal resources. He understood perfectly well that sooner or later the army would leave the territory due to the extreme exhaustion of its men. This strategy required immense, boundless patience and iron discipline on the part of the Native Americans themselves. They had to restrain their anger and act strictly according to the chief's unified plan. The result fully justified the means, as the army slowly lost its combat effectiveness without any large-scale battles. Moral superiority allowed the United Tribes to boldly dictate their terms on the vast battlefield. They turned ordinary human fear into a powerful weapon that halted the advance of the enemy's superior forces. How important do you think psychology is in modern protracted political conflicts? In the next chapter, we'll discuss in detail how the Allies utilized the complex natural landscape. The success of the combined mobile forces depended largely on their perfect knowledge of the complex local geography. The Comanche, Kiowa, and Cheyenne had literally grown up among these endless rocky canyons and vast prairies. They never attempted to reshape nature to suit themselves, as trained Army engineers did. The Native Americans integrated their tactical schemes as organically as possible into the existing complex terrain of the vast rugged landscape. Every hollow, sheer cliff, or dry riverbed became an element of their highly reliable defense. Deep, dark canyons served as excellent natural shelters for entire large, nomadic hidden camps. The sheer, impregnable rock walls provided reliable protection from biting winds and concealed the smoke from campfires. The narrow, difficult-to-pass canyon entrances could be easily defended by a force of just 5 experienced warriors. The army carefully avoided entering such places due to the extremely high risk of falling into an ambush. This provided the Allies with a secure deep rear area for safe extended rest and thorough preparation. The dry riverbeds of dried-up rivers were used as hidden transport routes for rapid and stealthy movement. They lay significantly below the level of the plain, making the detachments invisible from a great distance across open terrain. The soft, loose sand at the bottom of the riverbeds completely absorbed the sound of footsteps, providing ideal acoustic camouflage. Warriors could approach the enemy's fortified positions unnoticed, coming within precise archery range. This natural, winding network of paths was known only to local residents and the most experienced trackers. Rocky sections of the flat prairies were actively used to disorient enemy units and thwart prolonged pursuits. On the hard, smooth rock, absolutely no traces remained of the many human feet that had passed over it. Detachments deliberately and frequently ventured onto such plateaus to break the trail for the soldiers. This forced experienced American scouts to spend long hours searching for the correct direction to proceed. The terrain worked strictly against the army, significantly slowing its advance and exhausting the advance search parties. Harsh weather conditions were also skillfully used as a powerful tactical tool by the United Native American Front. Severe dust storms provided ideal cover for daring maneuvers and rapid covert movements. Strong winds masked sounds and smells, while the swirling dust reduced visibility to 2 meters. Under such conditions, the Native Americans felt much more confident than the disoriented army units in the open terrain. They would suddenly attack from within a cloud of dust and instantly vanish back into the impenetrable gray haze. The scorching summer sun of the endless plains was yet another silent and reliable ally of Chief Quana. The Army's heavy fabric uniforms turned the soldiers' long daytime marches into a veritable ordeal. The Indians, on the other hand, were dressed very lightly and moved primarily during the cool, comfortable morning hours. During the day, they calmly took shelter in the shade of the rocks, conserving their strength and the body's internal water reserves. This natural adaptation to the climate allowed them to maintain phenomenally high mobility during the hottest summer months. The severe winter cold also required a completely different approach to survival and conducting positional warfare. The Allied tribes moved into sheltered, deep valleys where there was plenty of dry firewood for heating. They built very warm shelters, using animal hides and tightly packed snow for excellent insulation. During the harsh winter months, the army was firmly tied to its forts and short supply lines. This gave the indigenous peoples a full 4 months of respite to regain their strength and plan their tactics. Perfect harmony with the harsh world around them became the foundation of this unique alliance's incredible resilience. They transformed absolutely every element of the landscape into a tool for their large-scale and effective military resistance. Their understanding of the laws of the wilderness gave them a strength that was beyond the reach of the regular army units of that time. This natural adaptability turned the plains into a truly impregnable fortress for the united nomadic indigenous peoples. Nature always protected those who understood and deeply respected its strict and unshakable rules. Quanah Parker's strategy involved the systematic destruction of absolutely all supply lines of the regular U.S. Army. He clearly understood the enemy's critical dependence on a steady supply of food, fodder, and heavy ammunition. The chief promptly assigned special mobile units to carry out sabotage operations deep within the enemy's rear. These groups operated completely autonomously, relying solely on general strategic guidelines from the tribal council. Their main task was to make the advance of enemy troops impossible by causing a total shortage of basic, vital resources. A new element of the war was the targeted destruction of telegraph lines connecting all the remote army forts. The Indians very quickly realized the importance of these wires for coordinating the actions of scattered regular military units. They methodically cut kilometers of cable, carrying it away for the domestic needs of their vast camp. Wooden poles were often toppled to the ground or simply burned to the ground late at night. This reliably plunged the forts into an information vacuum, depriving generals of the ability to effectively command their troops. The destruction of communications was always accompanied by the creation of cunning false landmarks for supply trains and postal couriers. Saboteurs would discreetly change road signs at forks in the road or create artificial tracks leading into the scorching desert. Inexperienced army guides followed these false routes and led heavy supply trains into dead ends. There, large convoys often became stuck in deep sand or ran into completely impassable rocky barriers. Such ruses inflicted enormous damage on the advancing army without a single shot being fired by the Allies. The Quana warriors also employed the tactic of precisely and reliably blocking narrow mountain passes with sudden rockfalls. They carefully prepared huge boulders at the edges of the gorges in advance, securing them with sturdy wooden struts. As the army supply train approached, the struts were knocked out, and the heavy boulders blocked the only accessible narrow path. Clearing such massive obstructions required special equipment, which the accompanying rank-and-file soldiers usually did not have. The supply train was forced to turn back immediately, without ever delivering the important cargo to its intended recipient. To completely disrupt communications, they intercepted army couriers carrying important secret paper dispatches. The Indians had studied the patrol routes in detail and set up permanent hidden observation posts along them. The captured documents, although they could not be read, were immediately destroyed right at the site of the interception. The loss of important orders created enormous confusion and chaos in the operations of various American military units. Fort commanders waited for days for orders that never reached their headquarters. Particular attention was paid to destroying stockpiles of dry grass and grain at large transshipment depots. Saboteurs secretly made their way to the granaries and set them ablaze using special pitch torches. The fire instantly destroyed tons of fodder, which was critically needed to sustain the Army's transport system. Without fodder, the heavy supply wagons simply could not move across the rugged and challenging terrain of the prairies. The U.S. Army's supply chain was reliably severed at its weakest points, places the generals least expected. The actions of the mobile sabotage units were so effective that the Army was forced to change its tactics. The command began to allocate enormous forces exclusively for round-the-clock protection of the stretched supply lines. This significantly and catastrophically reduced the number of soldiers available for active offensive operations. The Native Americans achieved their main objective by effectively forcing the enemy to switch to passive, localized defense. The war of attrition began to yield the first real strategic successes for the vast tribal alliance. Disrupting the Army's communications became a striking example of an asymmetric response to the overwhelming superiority of the regular army. The united tribes methodically struck at the most vulnerable points of the massive and unwieldy military machine. Quanah Parker demonstrated a profound understanding of how his powerful opponent's complex logistical infrastructure functioned. His sabotage strategy became an absolutely classic example of guerrilla resistance across the vast open steppes. The Army proved to be completely and utterly unprepared for such a high level of organization among the nomadic indigenous peoples. The alliance's superiority was largely determined by the exceptional quality of its collection of all tactical and strategic intelligence. Quanah Parker created a unique and extensive intelligence network covering the vast territories of the Great Plains. This system operated much faster and more efficiently than the cumbersome U.S. military telegraph network. Informants were everywhere, closely monitoring every move of regular Army units and convoys. Data flowed continuously into a single command center, where the chief made his lightning-fast and infallible tactical decisions. Scouts were carefully selected from among the most observant and resilient members of the united nomadic tribes. They underwent extensive specialized training in memorizing vast amounts of visual and complex numerical information. The scouts learned to accurately determine the size of a detachment by the number of campfires or the volume of trash left behind. They could tell exactly how many days had passed since the soldiers' final departure from the camp. These skills made them truly unrivaled masters at gathering critical intelligence in any terrain. Quana intelligence also made extensive use of cunning methods to infiltrate deep into the enemy's supply structure. Disguised as ordinary hired laborers, the Indians took jobs as general laborers around large American fortified forts. They listened very carefully to the conversations of ordinary soldiers and noted the quantities of supplies being delivered to the warehouses. Any unusual large-scale activity inside the fort was immediately reported to the Supreme Council of the Allied tribes. This information reliably helped predict the exact timing of major Army offensive operations in the region. Women also played an absolutely crucial role in the smooth functioning of this complex intelligence network of the Alliance. They frequently visited forward trading posts to exchange goods and gather all sorts of rumors. Merchants, completely unaware of it, unwittingly revealed crucial information about the movements of military convoys. The women possessed a phenomenal photographic memory for faces and could easily identify important Army officers. Their enormous contribution to ensuring the security of the entire United camp was truly invaluable and far-reaching. All the information gathered was always carefully analyzed at regular closed-door meetings of the Alliance's Commanders' Council. Quanah Parker personally cross-referenced data from various sources in detail to obtain the most complete picture. Scattered facts quickly coalesced into a clear and precise understanding of the strategic plans of the American military command on the prairies. This allowed the mobile allies to always stay one step ahead, avoiding direct confrontations that would be disadvantageous to them. The chief's analytical and systematic approach became the key to the survival of the entire vast confederation of nomadic peoples. Information superiority unquestionably enabled the Native Americans to carry out phenomenally precise and complex evasive maneuvers to elude pursuit. They knew exactly where the patrols were located and easily bypassed them from their unprotected flanks. The army would often close a tight encirclement around a completely empty spot on the map of the plains. The soldiers were utterly convinced they had driven the enemy into a trap, only to find cold, extinguished campfires. Quana's network functioned flawlessly, leaving the generals in a state of constant, deep, and bitter disappointment. In the open prairies, the ability to conceal one's true intentions was tantamount to the magic of invisibility. The Native Americans developed unique counterintelligence methods, deliberately leaving false trails for experienced army scouts. They could calmly set up a large camp in plain sight of a patrol and vanish deep into the night. Such maneuvers forced American military intelligence to report completely inaccurate movement data to headquarters. Deceiving the enemy became a crucial element of the overall intelligence strategy of the United Native American Mobile Forces. The creation of such a complex and incredibly effective intelligence structure was a true achievement by Chief Quana. He convincingly demonstrated that indigenous peoples possess the highest level of intelligence and a talent for systematic planning. The intelligence network became a strong, invisible shield that reliably protected the Allies from sudden, massive army strikes. It vividly demonstrated the importance of information as the most valuable resource in the context of a large-scale military conflict. The army was never able to destroy this system until the very end of the long historical confrontation. The phenomenon of the incredible unification of warring tribes under Chief Quana forever and completely changed the history of the Great Plains. This unique alliance definitively proved that, in the face of a common threat, it is possible to overcome any ancient differences. People who had waged brutal wars against one another for centuries were able to stand shoulder to shoulder for the sake of survival. Parker's diplomatic genius created an entirely new structure based on mutual respect and the strictest discipline. His exceptional leadership qualities became the very cement that bound this incredibly powerful alliance together. The experience of coordinating such vast numbers of people in such a complex manner was entirely unique for independent nomadic cultures. They learned to think not in the familiar terms of a small camp, but on the scale of the entire vast region. This required a radical restructuring of their entire established traditional nomadic worldview and way of life. Quanah was able to convince even the proudest chieftains to fully submit to a unified strategic will in order to achieve the primary goal. Such a large-scale transformation of consciousness is one of the most significant intangible achievements of this great alliance. The military tactics developed during the existence of this alliance have been thoroughly studied by many generations of later military strategists. The principles of mobile defense, disruption of communications, and psychological pressure remain highly relevant to this day. Quanah Parker vividly demonstrated the effectiveness of asymmetric warfare against the superior forces of a powerful modern industrial power. His innovative methods forced the U.S. Army to completely rethink its doctrines for conducting conflicts on the plains. Even his most implacable opponents among the high-ranking generals unreservedly acknowledged the leader's genius. The tribe's economic and deep logistical integration also became an unprecedented historical example of successful large-scale cooperation. A clear division of labor and a centralized, equitable distribution of resources saved 1,000 people from starvation and deprivation. This system convincingly demonstrated the indigenous people's capacity for highly complex macroeconomic self-organization under crisis conditions. Mutual aid became the absolute norm, completely and irrevocably replacing the previous brutal competition for territory. This unique experience of social consolidation deserves the most in-depth, detailed, and comprehensive historical study. The powerful Quanah alliance left a deep and indelible mark on the cultural memory of all the indigenous peoples of the Americas. It has forever become a symbol of incredible resilience, pride, and the capacity for self-sacrifice for the common good. Historical accounts of these events have been passed down by word of mouth over many long decades. They serve as a powerful source of inspiration for contemporary leaders fighting to preserve their cultural heritage. The figure of Quanah Parker has quite deservedly attained truly legendary status in the tribe's national historical epic. Today, Quanah's universal principles of leadership can serve as an excellent model for managing complex crisis projects. The ability to skillfully unite disparate groups, find compromises, and develop a common strategy is relevant in absolutely any field. His impeccable diplomatic tact and ability to persuade people are the most important skills of a successful, modern, and effective leader. The history of this unique Native American alliance extends far beyond the narrow confines of the military conflict of the last century. It is a powerful, universal lesson about the power of unity, intelligence, and an absolutely unyielding human will. The unification of warring tribes has forever become the most remarkable chapter in the annals of the Great Plains of North America. This experience will forever remain a unique example of how the right kind of leadership can change the course of history itself. The fond memory of Chief Quana's great wisdom lives on in the culture and carefully preserved traditions of his descendants. His immense legacy continues to teach us the importance of diplomacy, mutual respect, and the ability to overcome any internal disagreements. This story certainly deserves to be known and remembered by future generations. What do you think of the story of this incredible alliance? Suggest topics for future videos that you'd like to see on our channel in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss new episodes.